so we're exploring this issue of legitimacy, and the thing is that this is, the whole issue of power is contentious. I mean, that became apparent when we started when we started on Monday. Why is it the word power has got not quite the same kind of rap as the word leadership, although actually most people view them through a very similar lens. So why is this power word so kind of difficult? And also, we're not the first people to start questioning the issue of what makes power legitimate. There's a view out there, and the view out there basically says care and growth our view is that care and growth equals legitimate power. But there's a view out there that says that democracy equals legitimate power. So, if you view this just naively as a formula, then Heinrich, what would you have to conclude?
Well, it's the same thing.
In other words, care and growth means democratizing the workplace. Okay, so we need to have a bit of we need to talk about that. This is like one of those things that your spouse tells you. When you get frightened, you can see there's trouble coming, so we need to talk. This is a contentious thing. So let's see whether that's true or false, shall we? Is care and growth about democratizing the workplace? I'd like as many people as possible to take a view on the statement. So,
I think the problem here is that democrat is not the same for everyone. So the definition of what is the definition of a democracy is probably something that we need to sort of agree on before we start this process.
Well, okay, shall we do that then quickly, folks? I think that's a good point, Heinrich. So what are the things that are true when, just talking intuitively, when people talk the word, what is true about this word? What are the things you're assuming when you're using the word democracy? Most people.
Everybody's got a say.
Everybody's got a say. Absolutely right. Anybody want to add to that?
Equal say, I think.
An equal say. I think that's true. In fact, I don't think the word democracy makes sense without some sort of egalitarian spirit at all.
An equal value.
And equal value. Okay. I think that is what the word democracy means for most people. Any challenges to that? Debbie, what do you think?
For me, if you look at democracy, it's power to the masses, né?
Right. Yeah.
Then if you adapt this in the workplace, I see some sort of challenges posing.
Okay. So you
because
say
it's power to masses. Yeah. We are saying it's an equal say to everybody, but my concern is you're giving complete power over, in inverted commas, completeness. So for me, it's power to the masses, if you just look at democracy.
Right. Yeah, so Barbara speaking as a good South African, of course, because that really is our recent legacy. We've fallen in love with this word, and it's got really interesting implications. So, Les, what do you think about that statement?
If you look at democracy in that context, it comes pretty close to socialism.
Okay. Why is that a problem?
Because that's where it falls down. Because if everybody's view or everybody's opinion is equal and of equal weight, then you almost have management by committee and nothing ever actually happens.
I mean, I know I'm being a little bit contentious here, but I'd like to, and nothing happens. And nothing happens. Jan, so what I've understood, that one of your strengths in Scandinavia, generally Sweden particularly, is consensus. In fact, everything does run by committee, and amazingly, they even put fighter aircraft in the bloody sky with committees. They have military submarines that function by committee. How's that? Anyhow, I mean, I'm just being provocative. Les, forgive me, I'm old and nasty.
I was going to say, speaking to the South African, that's just scary.
Carla, what do you think about this sentence? Care and growth is concerned with democratizing the workplace.
Hi, everyone. It's myself and my business partner, David.
How's it?
David has
Hi,
strong
David.
opinions.
To be honest, I don't. Everything might have committees, like Jan was saying. However, your general population is a lot more educated than, say, South Africa's general population. So would that not take into account a better overall viewpoint as opposed to somebody like, or somewhere like South Africa, where generally speaking, there's a lot of people who are uneducated. So why have an equal say over people who are educated versus uneducated?
Oh, that's a very contentious thing. Oh. I'm going to hide under the table now, David. Somebody's going to pick a fight.
I'll make it less contentious. I think committees will work if as previously say, the values and are the same. In other words, in a committee where everybody's sort of viewing the problem through the same lens, that's less of a problem where you've got cultural differences, etc., etc. I don't know whether care and growth is necessarily there for everybody's got to say, because sometimes a subordinate or a person that deals with me does have a view of where I need to develop or what skills I still need to have, and I might not want to go there purely because change is a scary thing, and then I don't know whether my say needs to be equal to whoever is trying to grow me, like a kid to a parent. They don't.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah. Okay.
Is that not? Sorry, Esther.
Yeah.
Is that not the same as in a country it's the education? In a business setting, it would be the skill set. Does the janitor have the same say as the managing director?
Fine.
But it's also, I think, roles in a company. If you focus on a small technical area, it's hard to decide on the strategic matters or market windows and stuff, because maybe that's not your area. So, I mean, democracy must mean something else.
The janitor can't very well be involved in the budget for the next year.
No.
So, I mean, folks, can you see that what we kind of, we're sort of beginning to become hostile to the idea. I mean, so we're not kicking care and growth out. We're just saying you can't equate care and growth with democratizing the workplace. And I really think that is true. And I think it's one of the things that we've gotten wrong generally. So I indicated that there's been this move in kind of leadership science over the last 4 or 5 decades, because there was this discomfort after the Second World War with the command and control sort of approaches to leadership, and we wanted something more benign. And so there's been a move towards greater and greater democracy. Most recently manifest in things like agile and so on, which seem to be, almost hostile to hierarchy. And so it's almost like this pendulum has swung too far. Because what we don't recognize in all of this is that there's a perfectly legitimate place for control. So somebody's already indicated this. Let's say you have a 9-month-old child who's beginning to walk, and the person has stood up, or the child has stood up a few times, they've fallen a few times, they're hurting themselves. You can see the child's hurting themselves, and you don't want the child to hurt themselves. So the next time they stand up, you go over and you take their hand. What are you trying to do with the hand? You're trying to basically empower the child. You're doing this in the interest of the child. It's not in your interest. You're getting lumbago because you're having to bend over and hold the child's hand. Now, however, although you are acting in the interest of the child, surely isn't the taking of the hand an autocratic imposition of control? I mean, you're not negotiating it, you're taking the child's hand. In other words, it's entirely feasible to autocratically impose control in the interest of the person you're doing this to. One of the most controlling environments I've ever worked in is a company called African Explosives. I mean, in whose interest do you think that was? So it's entirely feasible to control somebody in their interest. And what some of the kind of the nightmarish kind of things that happen if you don't respect this are all they kind of suggested in the debate that we have here, or your reaction to the statement, because so I'm pleased, Debbie, that you sort of pointed out this, how we've been viewing democracy in this country. It's like this complete sort of rule of the masses. And we've had a number of, well, not this country, because I'm now, but in South Africa. We've had a number of sort of democratic experiments in South Africa. And one of the places where we've had this democratic experiment is in education, Now, as we indicated when we started talking, one of the implications of this democratic idea is that it is about equality. It's about making everybody equal, right? So now let's go back to this. We said, what does caring growth suggest? Caring growth says what makes power legitimate is that the big one cares for and grows the little one. Now, I mean, clearly, is this equal or unequal? And it's unequal. But now if we say no, but we have to democratize, it means we've got to make everybody equal. Now, the point is, well, if you want to make everybody equal overnight, can you do this overnight? And no, you can't do this overnight. So how else do you get them equal? Well, you do this, which is exactly what we've done in education in South Africa. It's no longer the teachers that beat the kids like it was when I was a kid. Now it's the kids who beat the teachers. And we're surprised that after 12 years of education, we literally deliver into society after 12 years of education. People graduating from high school were functionally illiterate and functionally innumerate in South Africa. I mean, they literally can't add, and they basically can't read a page of text. I mean, this is really shocking. So clearly, caring growth isn't the great equalizer. So what I'm trying to suggest is that if you're thinking through the problem of what caring growth is pointing at, the whole discourse between democracy and autocracy is not helpful, because it's too behavioral in focus. I mean, if we go back to the difference between the Fred and the Joe interactions and how Barbara was dealing with them, it is true to say that in the Joe interaction, Barbara's approach was far more, dare I say, democratic. And in the Fred interaction, her approach was autocratic. That's true. One can't deny that. So you can't dismiss this idea of sort of democracy completely, because that's what we are trying to create a condition where people are treated like adults, and are grown and are big, So, but at the same time, it's not about making everybody equal overnight either. I mean, not even in the relationship between the coach and the athlete can you have equality. If we say the job of the big one is to care for and grow the little one, what do you have to presuppose about the big one before the big one's even in the position to care for and grow the little one? Well, actually, the big one is big. You cannot do this job if this is the same. We go back to the coach and the athlete. The coach doesn't negotiate everything with the athlete. You know, so a precondition for the coach to be able to play their role is that the athlete subordinates themselves to the critical instruction of the coach. Otherwise, the coach can't do their job. So one has to understand, folks, that this care and growth approach is not about making everybody equal. It's actually it's a step out of our current political correctness. It's saying there's a place for hierarchy, and you cannot dismiss hierarchy, because if you try to dismiss hierarchy, you basically won't be able to foster the next generation of people, because then you're saying everybody has to be treated the same, you know? Now, I mean, that doesn't mean to say that you have license to now become the absolute tyrant, because we go back to this idea of the hand in the child. You know, I'm holding the child's hand. You know, what specific skill am I trying to develop here? Well, let's say I'm trying to enable the child to walk. Now, how can I find out the child can walk? Well, I don't sort of completely let go control and go stand on the other side of the room, you know, because then the child is going to fall. If I'm trying to enable the child to walk, what I do is I let go of the hand, but I stand near to the child, you know, because growth by its nature is an incremental process. So surely if growth by its nature is an incremental process, then empowerment has to mean an incremental suspension of control in order for the person to grow, not an absolute suspension of control. And I know this is right, because I'm absolutely convinced that nobody's born 21 years old with a leather jacket and teeth. Maybe, Les, you've got a different experience, but I don't think that's true. I think because the character of growth is increments, it means that if you're empowering somebody, if you're growing somebody, it means that you have to incrementally suspend control. And that's actually it's been a bit of a subtext in everything that we've said here. Not everybody is the same. It depends on the education of people. Surely skills must matter, you know. Now, having said that, therefore, the next principle we can tease out of it, therefore, says care and growth is concerned with an incremental suspension of control in order to empower the subordinate. Increments, increments, increments.